This is the problem with that this term "death with dignity." Well, we all struggle with a right perception of our own dignity. I mean, we can struggle that day in and day out. And if we did not, I mean, this is where, and we'll get to this. I mean, this is where if we didn't have something like the true doctrine of the Imago Dei, that there is something about us that is inviolable, right? That is metaphysical, that is not graded. It doesn't go up and down on a sliding scale. And if you don't have a real sense of the truth of that doctrine, and that you're dignified because you're made in the image and likeness of God, well, yeah, you could feel that dignity or valuable one day, and the next day not, or 1 year and then you have a bad year. And Jacob, it's too bad Jacob couldn't join us this one, because he wrote his dissertation on this very topic of understandings of dignity in Hindu culture versus Western culture, and the idea of honor and shame. I mean, we see this. We certainly see in ancient pagan cultures the ideas of suicide being the dignified way out of a shameful situation in life. Or you even think of biblically, Saul falling on his sword is acting like the pagan, right? In committing the suicide at the end of the battle against the Philistines. So couple that with the idea of a powerful state entity that wants to sort of have that is looking at people in a sort of just a purely economic or managerial, bureaucratic sense, and where it's like, wow, I mean, this can become a tool in the hands of the state to just incentivize death, is what it seems like.
So I don't have stats for Canada. Carl, I don't know if you do, but I do have stats for the Netherlands and Belgium, where this has been around for some time. Around 1 in every 60 deaths of a patient under medical care involves someone who has not requested euthanasia. And half of the patients killed without giving their consent were over the age of 80. They were just dismissed as old. 2/3 of them were in the hospital and were not suffering from a terminal disease, but they were just over 80. In about 4 out of 5 of the cases, death was never discussed with the patients subject to this involuntary euthanasia because they were either in a coma, they were diagnosed with dementia, or because doctors decided it would not be in their, quote, best interests to discuss the matter with them. And very often, doctors would not inform even the families of the plans to lethally inject a relationship because they considered it a medical decision to be made by themselves alone. And this is out of the Journal of Medical Ethics. So you can see even the doctors have this kind of God complex where they start to take on these roles.
And I'm not surprised by that. So in Canada, healthcare is realistically the largest expenditure we have as a country. Over 12% of my national GDP, of our country's national GDP, goes into healthcare. I mean, in the United States, I think your military only consumes roughly 3 or maybe almost 4% of your country's GDP, and your military expenditure is massive. But in terms of percentages, Canada versus your country, we spend over 12% of our GDP on healthcare. So, to your point early on, Anthony, this actually becomes really important from an economic point of view. Healthcare is extremely expensive, and for all the money that we spend as a country, we have one of the most expensive healthcare programs in the developed world, if not the most expensive healthcare program. And frankly, for the most part, there's a lot of problems in it. If you have a car accident, you'll have medical attention immediately, but if you have to have a knee replaced or a hip replaced, well, good luck. It's going to take forever and a day. In many respects, our healthcare system genuinely sucks, and it has sucked for a long, long time because we're a bureaucratic healthcare system, completely bureaucratic, very top-heavy. So if you're going to make budget cuts, if you want to all of a sudden help to bring down the universal cost of your universal health care, medical assistance in dying becomes all of a sudden an option that you may want to pursue, even from that
Less
policy.
people to cover.
Right, even from that policy point of view. And then in terms of old people or elderly people, I have a number of friends, and I have some family members, but I have a number of friends who work with senior citizens in home care facilities. And I can tell you right now that there are individuals in the care home. Let's say the husband's in the care home, but the wife is not. She's still at home, but the wife is already saying, you know, when my husband goes, I just want to be mated. So this is people are now looking at this as just simply, here's the option. And that actually goes back to your point, Lenny, about, hey, I don't want to be a burden to my family. I don't want to be a burden to my friends. And so you've got all of these dynamics that come into this. And you're like, all this is placed within that concept of dignity. Oh, you have chronic pain. Well, here, the dignified thing to do is to die. My father is almost 86 years old. Okay, I'm a farm boy. My dad still lives on the farm. My dad, as long as I have known him, has suffered with debilitating chronic pain. His back is all smashed up from an airplane accident, from other conditions that have happened. His suffering is daily, and it's extreme. Let me put it this way: there's times that I have watched him get, as a younger man, he gets off the tractor, he clutches a tire of the tractor. He doesn't think I'm watching or doesn't think anybody is seeing. He is shaking. He is white in pain from the effort it took to get down off the seat onto the ground, and he is holding himself up while he is just gritting his teeth in pain. His whole face is white. His body is white until he gets himself under control and keeps going. He's a candidate to get mated. Where's the dignity? The dignity, this is going to sound maybe, for some people it may be going, well, your dad shouldn't have to suffer like that. No, the dignity is found in my dad's ability to say, I can deal with the suffering, and I can work with the suffering. And as much as you might complain about the suffering, and as difficult as the suffering is, my dad has demonstrated dignity through suffering.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was just going to make this point. I mean, it's incredible to me, this euphemism that they're using, because as Lenny said, it's such a misnomer. Where is the dignity in not persevering through pain and suffering? I mean, that's just what we call courage.
Right.
And endurance. These are virtues. It's virtuous to deal in an honorable and noble fashion with the vicissitudes of life. And to not do that is, if anything, the right word would be cowardice. I just, so but the fact that it's being packaged this way, I think it's so spiritually deceiving again, that, it's dignifying to kill yourself, because I mean, you can feel the devil, the demonic power in that, because at the end of the day, what does the devil want to do except destroy the image and likeness of God in man?
Here's a murderer and a thief from the beginning. Yeah.
Well, and we'll get to, go ahead, Lenny, and then I want to get to.
I was just going to say, anytime you make something disposable, it becomes less valuable by its definition. Anytime something can be thrown away, and I just, it's no big deal. We just, it's expired, throw it away. We'll get another one. And we understand this even with inanimate objects. That makes it intrinsically worth less. It's the things that you want, right? It's the 67, Corvette that you want to restore that gives it its value, not, this is just a commuter car. We just throw it away and buy another one, that kind of thing. And this is what we're talking about with people. It's the people we're talking about. The dignity lies within the person, not within the fact that you stop.
I mean, of course, we can think of all kinds of dystopian novels that have pointed this out, that human beings only become sort of like functionary objects. And once they're no longer functional to some utilitarian end, just throw them out. And we might say, okay, maybe that is sort of the default human position given sin in the world, right? Given sin in the world. And it does take the Christian revelation claim to say, no, that's not what human beings are, or that's not what we're for. And that's not our purpose. But I mean, I just find it astounding that in at least formerly Christian nations, you could call committing suicide an act of dignity. Seems like such a contradiction in terms.